I got involved with David Evans when he called me on the phone in the winter of 1969 and asked me if I were interested in joining or creating really a clergy consultation service on problem pregnancies for upstate New York. He knew Howard Moody of New York City, who had started the first clergy consultation service in 1967. So it was thought that because they were so overloaded with people coming to them, they wanted to start an upstate service. And so David and Moody got together. David called me. I said yes. And we and another group of clergy were off and running for 1969 to 1970. Well, we advertised that we were offering counseling to women with problem pregnancies. New York State at that time had a very restrictive abortion law. You could get an abortion only if the woman's life were at stake and with a certification of 2 doctors. That was it, and it was very difficult to obtain. And so there were many women in the state who were looking for an abortion and didn't know where to find it, and we advertised that we offered consultation. We went public in the newspaper, in the Ithaca Journal, in 1969, I think it was March of '69, offering our services. The process was this: we set up a phone, an answering service, and each of the clergy took 1 week, and we signed up for that 1 week, and the answering service would forward calls to us. So that was the way it worked. We counseled only in our offices to avoid legal entanglement. But actually, before we started the service, we did a lot of homework. We met with OBGYNs, with psychiatrists. We met with Cornell people. We met with Harriet Freeman, who was a law professor at Cornell University, so we would understand fully our potential legal complications. So we done a lot of homework. And then we, as I say, we went public. And women started coming. We counseled only in our offices. We referred women only out of state. And this was, again, another layer of protection from legal entanglement. I counseled, I think, over the year we were in operation, about 50 women. 17 in 1 week, which was a heavy week, which was totally exhausting. It was very hard work, but it was very meaningful work because these women obviously had great problems, and we were able to help them to an extent to sort them out. Mainly we sorted them out by referring them to doctors in some other state. Again, another legal activity that we pursued, so we wouldn't be sued in our own state if any trouble occurred. None did, by the way. So they would come to our offices. We would counsel with them. We would require that they came in with a statement from their doctor about how many weeks they were pregnant, a written statement from a doctor saying that they were pregnant and how far along they were. And we had a little quiz we gave them about how they felt about contraceptives, why they wanted an abortion, what was the extent of their contact with their own family or with their partner. And we often counseled with them alone, but sometimes their partner would come with them. But we always talked with the women alone so they would make a decision without the pressure of a man who might not want an abortion for this woman. I was very much moved by the stories. They were stories of the social problems of America. I can recall one girl who came, a young co-ed from Cornell, who didn't dare tell her parents. She was a Roman Catholic, didn't dare tell her parents, and was sure that she would be disowned or otherwise punished if she were to let them know. I talked with a very nice young couple who were pre-med at Cornell, and they didn't want to have a child at this point because it would completely derail their careers. I talked with a Native American from south of Syacuse. She had tried to get a legal abortion, had failed, but given the counseling we could provide, she didn't see the way clear to getting an abortion herself, and she left my office, rushed out, threatening suicide. which was a very painful thing for me. I met with a very nice, well, you say middle-aged couple, I'd say in their 40s, who already had 6 children. They did not want, nor could they afford more. And in every case, the women involved had tried birth control, but it had failed them. So this was very interesting to discover. We sent them to many places. Among the cities nearby, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, but also some women went as far as Japan, London, or some other state in the Union. It was a very moving experience because we could do important work with them, but so little to help them resolve this very critical problem that was going to affect the rest of their lives. My wife was aware of what I was doing. I think she is fearless. She's very cool under pressure. And she may have had some apprehension, but she certainly didn't pass any on to me. I did not tell my parents, who were rather moderate upstate Republicans, but not terribly politically engaged or socially engaged, and they lived some distance away. So that was the extent of the knowledge of my family. I went to the church board. I got the permission of the church board, and I knew I had the permission and the support of the congregation, which was reassuring. And every minister who was in the service did have to get some kind of authorized support from their congregation, a board, or a presbytery, or something like that. We had rabbis, ministers. We even had a few referrals from liberal Catholics, nuns and priests at Cornell University. We knew some of the people there. They were not able, obviously, given their doctrine, to refer women directly, but they felt comfortable referring women with these problem pregnancies to us, mostly Catholic co-eds. And probably half or better of our clients, so to speak, were Cornell students. I think there was some anxiety, although we had done our homework pretty well and gotten good advice from, as I say, a Cornell law professor. So we felt we had protected ourselves to the extent possible. And what we had to do was, we felt was necessary. So some anxiety, but we had no problems. I had no problems. I don't think any of the others had problems. I'm not sure. A few clergy in other places did have problems. A friend of mine in Detroit was apprehended, arrested, but the case was thrown out. So there was some danger, but given the reaction we had from the women we helped, we forged ahead. Why am I doing it? I refer to a book by a friend and colleague of mine, Tom Davis, who wrote a book. He's a minister, United Church of Christ minister. He wrote a book called Sacred Work, which was a history of the Planned Parenthood movement, but mainly the role of clergy with regard to Planned Parenthood. And he used the term sacred work, and I've read the book and done some thinking about it. And I think it was sacred work because it recognized the autonomy of women. It was a statement of human health and decision-making. I had the support of my denomination, my church and my denomination, which had come out as a pro-choice denomination in 1963. So for me, it was not a stretch because Unitarian Universalists are on the left fringes of the organized religious movement. Some say we are disorganized, but Unitarian Universalists are quite progressive on these matters, and so I knew I had the support of my church. And Ithaca, by and large, is a liberal community. I mean, the impact of Cornell, half my congregation probably worked at Cornell or Ithaca College, perhaps. So I felt fairly safe in those protections. The minister has a very promising role, preaching every Sunday or most Sunday mornings, and a congregation out there that can be persuaded if they're a liberal clergy person with a liberal congregation, and we should not shy away from these contentious issues. Liberal clergy now need to know that the struggle is never over, that they must keep at it in terms, I think, of educating themselves, their congregations. I found the congregation a very great help as a supportive body during this and other social issues that I've struggled with. Connie Cook was a marvel. She was a Republican. Hard to believe in these days, but she was a moderate Republican who, with another member of the Assembly and the Senate, introduced legislation to repeal New York's very restrictive abortion law. I can't say I was a friend of hers. I met with her a number of times. We were friendly with one another, and she was, of course, pushing the bill, and we were lobbying, or I prefer to use the term advocacy. We were advocating for the bill, and that was a part of our purpose. Our purpose was twofold. One, consultation for women who had problem pregnancies. Two, to change New York's abortion law so we would not have the problem of women with problem pregnancies that could be handled. But Connie was positive, cheerful, and aggressive at the same time, and she carried a lot of weight being an upstate Republican, I think. And of course, the whole Assembly and the Senate, the governor, all were Republicans. The times have changed dramatically since 1970, when the abortion law in New York State was repealed. I do have some advice for people who are working for reproductive justice, as I prefer to call it today. One is, I have observed over the many years I've been involved in this struggle, I've observed that bad news causes people to mobilize. Good news provokes apathy. I think when we found our law changing in 1970, we thought, our work is done. We could address other causes, plenty of other causes to work on. And then, of course, we have the present day. And as this legislation passed, the other side, the pro-life side, I hate to use those simplistic terms, but the anti-abortion community rallied when the law was liberalized. The pro-choice movement tends to mobilize when there's some negative court decision, as with the Supreme Court doing its job to mobilize us in these days by the Dobbs decision and other decisions. And of course, there are more decisions coming down the way before the end of June. And so the pro-choice movement needs to be ready to be mobilized again, yet again, should be mobilized now, to continue the struggle. It's not as if abortion rights is something that's to be accomplished. You can't just check it off on your done list. It's a constant to-do list, and it probably will be for as long as, certainly as I live, but as long as many other people live as well.